Yeah. So before we move on here a little bit, I do want to go to David because I know you've been waiting for a while. Welcome to the panel, David. It's great to have you.
Hey, how are you, sir? I want to say a few things and I'll make it short. And I'm going to ask, I know sometimes attorneys get upset with me. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use the law. And I want to thank some of the panelists that came before me that use the law, even if we deal with each other or like each other or not, right? One thing that I want to say first is that ignorance of the law is no excuse. I think Denise hit on a lot of points dealing with what the law says at the most fundamental level as it is today. The reason this is important, and I'm going to put it in the chat bubble, is because one of the godfathers of law, John Locke, who is responsible for much of English law, which any attorney or any judge would follow. This is the guy who Thomas Jefferson followed. He told us that uh, governments are trust, and this is really important because when you have a trust, tacit or express, you have rules that you must follow and you have granted power that is given to you from the ultimate power. So we the people created constitutions. There was no such thing of the American Bar Association or anything like that. And we put in place how the government would be ran, how things would go. And the important thing is we granted power. So, in other words, we gave the frame of government to our servants, and they swore ahead of time that if we allowed them to work for us, that they would do certain things. So, when you look at this whole situation between Texas and Biden, what you'll find is that Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution tells that the government guarantees, the Fed guarantees, so it's already figured out that they would protect each state from invasion, period. Right? So when we start talking about how we feel about people coming and all this emotional stuff, that has nothing to do with law. Next thing is, when it comes to those fundamental principles in the state constitutions, the federal government already agreed all the way through the country that it is an inherent right of the people. You can look in Virginia Constitution, first three bills. You can look in Georgia Constitution where it says we regulate the government. You'll see where we have the ability to instruct our servants, trustees, representatives, and agents. They are here to work for us. It's based on our will only, not theirs. So when you see that there's a fight that's happening where people in the Fed want to allow an invasion to happen, which that is what the governor said is happening now, an invasion, it is already a guarantee. It's not up for discussion. So you'll find today, and I'll give some evidence of this, that the Supreme Court is showing that the attorneys in America, on a high level who deal in the Supreme Court, you can look at the SEC versus Jacarsi oral arguments were just made. You can look at the Bruin decision recently where the ATF has been knocked down to almost nothing. You'll find that attorneys for the last 30, 40, 50 years have been practicing law and adding things into precedents that actually goes against the common law, which is you cannot do it, right? So they're using administrative cases and statutory fiat in order to say that, hey, we came up with one judge who said in a statutory case that we can just change the fundamental law. And I think that's what Denise is arguing in so many words. I don't agree with 100% of everything. I'm blocked by Denise, but what she's saying about the fundamental law is 100% true. We got to stop looking for attorneys or government officials to tell us what the law is when we can clearly see it in the fundamental law, the trust indenture called the United States Constitution and the state constitutions. Too many times we're looking at emotion and what we don't like. And for instance, that case that happened with the Supreme Court in Texas, we must first realize what was put into the case before we try to say what the judges found. The judges did not find that Biden was right when it came to invasion, right? The court found that they can snip the wiring, the wire fences, because of a law that's in the United States statute that says that they could go within so many miles of private property to arrest people. The real issue is there's an invasion, and what people are not bringing up is when you deal with administrative officers dealing with a policy, you cannot be a judge in your own case. So when there's federal programs where the federal government is making money off of every child they separate from a parent, or every time they give money, these $5,000 credit cards or whatever they're giving to these people who come into the country, the partnerships of the federal, state, and local municipalities block them from having equity. Therefore, they cannot be a righteous judge. So you can't say we're going to allow everybody to come in and then there be backdoor deals where everybody's making money off of the process of bringing people in, and you're putting them in big hotels. And you got social workers and psychologists and doctors and different people all working in a federal program without full disclosure to people with no constitutional authority. The main issue is we have written constitutions. We, the people, own government. We regulate government. It says that in every preamble in every state constitution across the nation. We got to stop allowing for people to have the benefit of the doubt because they're attorneys, because now the scholars as attorneys are complaining that the Supreme Court is using the historical method, which is the context that the constitutions are actually in, and they're going against the attorneys. The attorneys are upset because the people are winning. I think a lot of what the gentleman Jovan was saying, a lot of the stuff Ryan was saying, and Denise was saying, would all be solved if we just look at the plain letter of the constitutions all across the country. It's already there. We have no reason to fight, but we should first stop and say, why didn't anybody teach us our state constitutions across the country? We've been left to trust attorneys. People have went to jail over ATF situations that the Supreme Court right now is saying, you guys messed up because you stopped using the historical analysis method with the customs and usages of the people provided for by the constitutions, and you have made your own way. You have changed the mandates of government that's in the Constitution and made classes of actions that have nothing to do with the law, and they're getting punished for it now. So we got to stop just thinking because people went to a law school that they got trained correctly. Is Biden's fault? He is outside of the law because he guaranteed no invasion. Thank you.